5 straight before you guys snapped the streak. Now you've won 2 in a row. What would it mean to close out your career here at Clemson, winning 3 straight over your arch rival?
Yeah, anytime you can get a win over your rival, it's awesome. But being able to come out and win the majority of the games against your rival is pretty something special. Not a lot of people have done. And, it's something special, too, for those guys that, whenever I was redshirting, that never got to beat South Carolina. And so guys like, Dalton, Freeman, and Taj and all those guys that never got to beat them, it's kind of for them, too. So it's definitely something that you really look forward to and you try to accomplish. I mean, obviously this game is one of its own. It's a season of its own because – even though this is my senior year and I'll be, gone from Clemson, South Carolina, you're still going to hear about it for the rest of the year. So it's a special one.
How much time have you thought about how emotional will be standing on top of the hill for the last time?
Not too much. I thankfully didn't get too emotional, during senior day, so hopefully it'll be that way on Saturday. But, you never know what it'll be like. I figure it'll be a little bit, but no, I haven't thought about it too much. Trying to kind of push it back till the time comes.
Talk about bragging rights now, but is it also special knowing that this is a game for you? Is the next game and a bunch of big games to come? And for them, this would make their season, and they could ruin your season and make theirs.
Well, I mean, and they I believe they're bowl eligible now too, so that just kind of adds to getting them to a better bowl. And I mean, it's an important game, but yeah, they're one of our goals is to win the state championship, and they're standing in our way of being able to accomplish not just this goal, but bigger goals, like you said, that we have and that we want to accomplish, like going to the playoff and eventually wanting to go to the national championship, and we can't accomplish that if we don't beat South Carolina. And I mean, it's just one of those games where it's going to be, emotions are going to be high. You got to come out, you got to play well with all the emotion, and I think we'll be able to handle that pretty well.
When you hear the name South Carolina, not talking about the guys you play against, stuff like that, but when you just hear the name South Carolina, or you see that logo, What are your thoughts?
Don't like it very much. Don't like the garnet and black very much. I mean, it is, in my opinion, obviously I'm biased because I'm a part of it, but one of the best rivalries in college football. And once again, something that if you don't win, you hear about it all year. And I mean, shoot, you even hear about it, 3 years later after you done beat them twice in a row. So, so it's one that you do not want to lose. And it's special, and but no, I don't like garnet and black very much.
Wayne said he got the sense the offensive line was kind of tired of being called soft, maybe, and some of those kind of things. I mean, do you feel like last week was kind of a statement game for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, once like I said, after the game, we knew it was there, and you go back and watch the film, and we did a really good job just with our technique, and that's just where we had kind of been, I don't want to say behind, but just what had been holding us back a little bit is just the small things, and I think we really executed well on the small things. We're able to use our hands well. Footwork was very well, and they did some things that could kind of hurt us. But I tell you, because most of the night my head was between my legs, looking for the indicator to snap the ball. And guards did a wonderful job of communicating, and they made a lot of the calls, after my head had went down, because Wake Forest would move and whatnot, a lot to try and confuse you, and they did a really good job. So I think that whole past week was just focusing on the little things, and I think that's really what kind of helped us excel. And I'm really hoping that kind of gets the ball rolling. Just into these next games, into the biggest games of the season, and kind of helps us finish out well.
Is Carolina defense sort of a bend but don't break kind of defense? Let you get there to the red zone, but then when you get in the red zone, they try to turn you over and things like that? Yeah,
and they got some good players too. Their defensive line's pretty good. They're stout guys, upfield pusher kind of guys. I mean, they do some things. Coach Muschamp, he's a very defensive-minded man, and he really good at what he does. So they can do some things that can hurt you, but I believe if we can kind of stick to our game plan, that we'll have some success. But they're really good at creating turnovers. One thing we haven't been good at not giving the ball away. So we got to really hold on the ball like we did last weekend. You saw last weekend, hold on the ball, what we can do. So I'm pretty excited to see how we can kind of try and punch it in there, like you said, towards the red zone.
Do they change anything? Do they change anything up though when they allow defense to get to that 20? What do they do different that makes it so difficult for teams?
Well, I think they're one of those teams that just take pride in not letting you score. It's not so much what they do. I mean, because they do a lot of what other teams do. It's just they take a lot of pride, and whenever they get in the red zone, they're not going to let you score. You can just see it in their body language on tape. Just what they're all jacked up. You can see them jumping around, excited, having fun. Whenever they get in the red zone, they make a good play. I mean, they just take a lot of pride in what they do. I mean, as they should.
As far as schematically, is there anything, or is there a big difference you see on film between what they were doing last year and now with much change?
A little bit more 3 down front that they do. They'll sprinkle it in there. They don't do it a lot, but they'll just sprinkle it in there. Not a lot different from their front and everything, but because whenever it really comes down to it, defense is defense. I mean, there's only so much you can do, and they don't seem to bring the house a lot. They don't seem to be flying guys around like we saw with a Syracuse or Pittsburgh. So they don't do a lot different than they did last year.
I asked this to Ben yesterday. On the road, you guys seem like a different team. You seem more focused. You play better. At home this year, with the exception of Syracuse, that hasn't been the case. Is there anything you can pinpoint to why you guys just haven't played well at home?
Not sure. I mean, we just played good teams at home. NC State came in here, and their record doesn't show it, but they are a very good football team. And I think maybe us beating them may have ruined their season a little bit. But that's not for me to speculate, but that's just kind of from what I see. But we've played some pretty good teams here, and don't get me wrong. I mean, you go and you see Troy. Everyone at the start of the season thought the world was coming to an end because we could barely beat Troy. But then you go and look, and I think they've only lost 2 games this year, and they were ranked this past week. So I don't think it's a lack of focus. I don't think that's anything. I think that's farthest from the truth, is that Coach Sweeney does a really good job of keeping us all focused in. We know that every game's the most important. So, I don't really know what it is, if it's just a good teams or whatnot, but I know it's not a lack of focus, I can tell you that.
I had so much fun watching John Pollard the other night. He's so animated before the snap.
Yeah.
How do you kind of rein him in yet keep him aggressive all at the same time?
Nah, he's just kind of learning his way. I mean, he's a freshman. We all of us give him a hard time because he asks about 2 million questions every day in practice, which is a good thing. You're never going to know the answer if you don't ask the question. But nah, he just goes out there and he does what he's taught. And but no, he's very animated, and sometimes I have to calm him down and say, Sean, just let me. He tries to do too much, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes I have to be like, Sean, calm down and let me do what I'm supposed to do. Don't do my job for me, please. And he's going to be a good one. He's just, he's got to learn the ropes, and he's got to learn that he can't make every call. He can't see every single thing the defense is going to do, and that sometimes stuff just happens. And I think once he learns that, he's going to be a little bit better and play a little bit faster.
Not to take anything away from Jake, but what has Sean brought to the offensive line? What difference has he made?
I think he's just stepped in well for Jake. Jake, was doing a pretty good job. Had played well for the most part, and I feel like they're pretty similar. Sean has a little harder edge. He kind of gets after a little. I'm not saying that Jake doesn't, but he's a little bit bigger body and brings a little more physical presence in. Doesn't quite have the technique that Jake has, but once again, that comes with time. But he's eager to learn. A lot like Jake is, eager to learn, loves football, takes his coaching. And that's why he's been able to play well against really good opponents. He comes in, I think his second start, he's playing against, the guy who's got the 3rd most sacks in the country. against Pitt. I mean, and this number 53 from Wake was a good player. And so he's kind of been thrown into the fire, and he's responded well, and I've been really happy to see how he's responded because, I mean, it even goes back to summer where he's texting me after early morning workouts going, hey, man, you want to come in here and watch film? And I'm like, no, not really, but I will, Yeah, I mean, and that's just the kind of person he is. He's always eager to get better and eager to learn, and I think that's what's going to make him a great player.
Ware said that, I guess as a freshman, he was standing out there for Sandstorm, and he was kind of like, what is happening? And
Yeah.
Liggett was saying he got there and he was hoping the fans weren't going to get on the bus. He was kind of nervous about
Right.
that. Did you have kind of like a welcome to the rivalry?
No, because I've been a Clemson fan pretty much my entire life, so I mean, I've known about the rivalry and everything, but it's just a lot of people were, whenever you're going through Columbia that first time, a lot of people you notice were calling you number one. Even little kids were telling you were number one. So I mean, I tell you, it's an awesome rivalry, and it's something special. And I mean, yeah, driving around on the buses, seeing all the fans whenever you're there, and then just coming back here is whenever we play here, and just seeing where there's all these. It's just so. It's like you've got your patches of South Carolina. It's because normally the fans kind of intermingle with each other. You see some Pitt tents, whenever they were here, with some Clemson tents. Not whenever the rivalry comes around. It's Clemson. It's like the section of Clemson, and then there's South Carolina. We don't intermingle. We don't like each other, even our fans. So no, it's something pretty fun to look and watch out for whenever you're riding the buses and everything.
I know there's hate and everything, but do you guys kind of ever just sit back and kind of appreciate that you're part of a really good rivalry?
Oh yeah, and I mean, whenever it comes down to it, it's a game, and but once again, the South Carolina is not a team that we want to lose to, and it's once again, it's one of the best rivalries, and it's something that is special to be a part of, and to be able to talk to other players that come back, or some of our student coaches that have come back to finish their degrees, on how it was in the 90s, in the 80s, and how it hasn't changed. South Carolina still doesn't like Clemson. Clemson still doesn't like South Carolina. And how special that is just something that's really fun to be a part of.
When you were a kid, can you take us back to that first time you remember the rivalry and how mad you were?
I remember faintly whenever Clemson and South Carolina got in the fight. And I think that was here, wasn't it? Yeah, and I just very faint memory of that. And I remember thinking, wow, they really, because I don't think I'd ever seen a fight in like a big college game before. I remember thinking, wow, they really, really do not like each other. And that I guess that kind of opened my eyes. And hopefully that's something that never happens again. But no, I think that's kind of one of my first memories of it, and thinking of how just big the rivalry was, because you see all these other big time rivalries, but there's never really been anything like that, or any kind of fight or anything. So I remember that kind of opening my eyes whenever I was just I was like 10, and like, wow, that's something kind of different.
It's more edge to Dabo this week than other weeks, perhaps.
I wouldn't necessarily say more edge. I mean, there's just more of a, I guess he reminds you a lot more of whenever we did lose 5 in a row, and how terrible that was. I mean, I remember a couple years ago in 2014, whenever he would pull up pictures of people taking pictures with him that were holding up the 5, and just how that was a miserable time, and and how we could never get away from it. We always heard about it, no matter what success we had. We were always hearing about South Carolina, so it's. I would say there's more edge because he's always pretty intense, ready to go. Every game's the biggest game, but he reminds us every day that, what we're playing for.
I know you said senior day wasn't too emotional for you, but is it nice having, one more game, another chance to go out and win?
Yeah, you never want to go out like that, and the chance that we have to go out with a win, and to go out with a win against South Carolina, is something that will definitely kind of stay in our heads. I know it'll stay in my head, as a senior, and kind of say that was my last game in Death Valley.
You guys have a chance to be the first upperclassmen since 2008 to win 3 games against
Yep.
South Carolina. How much does that mean to you guys?
It means a lot. Once again, anytime you can win against South Carolina, it's a big deal. And, winning the majority of your games against your rival is something that you want to do.
You mentioned the 5-game losing streak. Even in your worst nightmares, could you imagine what it would be like to play for, even be here 5 years, and be one of those guys that's never going to win against them?
Yeah, that's terrible. I remember standing out there in 2012. It was me and Patrick Stefano, and it was in the late 4th quarter. And I remember Dalton standing there, and he had gotten hurt or something that game, and he was standing on the sidelines, and he was like, "Guys, if y'all do this, I'm going to come back and I'm going to beat you guys." He's like, "You cannot not beat South Carolina," and it makes me feel bad for him, just because I just know whenever we kind of broke that streak and everything in 2014, just the pure joy that we had of beating them and finally getting past that mark in history where they had beaten us 5 times in a row and everything, and just the locker room afterwards and finally getting the trophy back and everything. So, that's something I do not want to imagine or feel.
All set.